Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have a few technical things to go over.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are having our first meeting with new council this morning. Welcome, Chris. And being here.
Tom, I'm having trouble understanding you.
I'm just introducing Chris and saying thank you for being here. Okay.
You have to speak up. I sometimes can't hear thinking at the other end, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I could hardly hear you, understand you.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
So we'll begin with the approval of minutes. Were there any corrections to the minutes of November 22nd?
No.
No.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the minutes from December 21st, were there any corrections?
They were not complete.
Oh, they were not.
They were not complete.
Aha, okay. All right. So to review the work of the committee of two, we reviewed application for finishing up on 101 Hedges Lane. That was approved for materials and colors. We also approved the application for Sun Nation Solar at 408 Narrow Lane East. And we are still waiting for some documentation to finish up 494 Hedges Lane. So that we need to adjourn to next month. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So the next thing coming up is we visited the Tahari residence at 135 Crestview. We adjourned for a site visit, which most everyone got to. The photographs were taken from the exterior, and we were able to get a better sense of that environment and what the proposal for the structure would be. And so we will continue with that. Did you want to just repeat who you are and so forth?
Yeah, so thank you. Again, Greg Cajun from PR Studio, the architect for this project. We had left off this project where they just wanted to view the property to get the planting and the trees in scale. I know it's sometimes difficult to see that from the renderings and the aspect. So I hope when you have visited the project, you had a pleasant experience. You realize that where we're relocating the garage and keeping the door, not a glass door, the light unit emissions toward that side are great. The design is a tight property, but we put everything in a very modest way. We went through the HOA process. We have approval from all neighbors, all association parks in that area. And we accommodated a lot of the elements that they wanted from the western neighbor to make sure that the screening to that side is good because they knew we were right up against the setback. But again, they're very happy with the cabin there. And I guess what we need to know is what you found out from your visit and the findings. Is that questions or things that might.
Were the Zoom members able to access the Google Drive and assess those exterior photographs?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Can we-
Well,
Have.
We put the
in-person
before and after
visits as well. So the plantings to the east and west are fairly established. This particular property is lower than the two properties, structures to the east and west, which were rebuilt around the time of Sandy, is that correct?
Yes. We have given this, we have gone through this process and we've given the release back from the floodplain setbacks. We've taken 139 square feet back out of the house and we're putting it further back from the property so that we are maintaining, we're maintaining that bluff in a more secure way.
So can you say the difference in size between that old part and the new part?
The old part of that structure has reduced by 139 square feet, projecting out towards the south, towards the water.
It's also, it's not that the planning board,
Look.
planning board.
Oh, yes, I apologize. Yes, so the planning board has reviewed this and has approved the fact that it has been moved back there. We're very happy with the fact that it has been done. All the drainage is being controlled and maintained in a very efficient way. The sanitary is put off towards the road area, which is going to keep it out of the sand and aspect there. So environmentally, everything has come together. The project is planning to utilize geothermal energy so that we're not going to have a lot of noise. There's no AC condensers or anything like that that's going to be of disturbance to neighbors and that sort. Again, we're going to try to maintain, if you would notice that there's a beautiful reflecting pool on the property that's there. That's all going to stay as is, a narrow pool. It's not a giant splash pad, it's more of a lap pool. So again, it keeps it skating. The existing trees and the ornamental trees are going to be kind of kept in place, so it stays as more of a wooded environment. We're not going to turn this into a giant grass lawn. Yeah, interacting and consistent with what's in the area. Yeah, it is a special location. The five lots happen to be their own little subdivision. They have their private association. So hence we don't want to make too much of a disturbance. You know, the road access, as you noticed, is very minimal. The new drive in this design is really an attempt to maintain confusion for the property just west of it, because we want to maintain so they can come in a circular motion and leave without having to back into other areas.
Can I interrupt anybody who is not speaking? Please mute yourself.
So yeah, so you can see there on the existing picture there, the pool shown in green. It's got a transverse line through it. Our new structure is going to extend to the north of that area towards the grayer spot. And our focus is going to be more on the internal part of the property as a social space versus the ocean side as a social space. So we're not going to have any main event areas, people kind of playing and stuff like that there. It's going to be more on the backside, the private side of the house. Again, all in kind of keeping harmony with the area. We're very sensitive as well. Pine loves what's there. The existing barn is a very special piece to the project. It's very calm, it fits in with the area because it kind of stays well. So that was the reason why the intent to keep the barn, or what we call the barn section, and work the new addition in where you can see on that the drawing. It looks like it's a very small little piece, but it's far off in the distance. But that's the piece that gets extended. So we're coming further north on the angled structure. It's kind of a canted structure, a square that sticks out to the south. So that is being removed and it's turning into a smaller plane further back from all the other houses that are shown on the property on these existing areas.
Very good. So we had started to speak about the increase in glazing on certain sides of this, and as I recall, the print is kind of small here. But if we go to that sheet, please, that page.
I believe the one question that came up.
207.
I believe the one question that came up was in relationship to just the existing barn. The existing barn area where there is a small aluminum panel section that is from the, we'll call it the 42-inch area down, because it's an existing kitchen, where since we want to make that an operable area, those panels are being removed. So there's only going to be an extra glass from the 42-inch height down. So that's the reason for the increase, and that's only just that barn on the existing.
Mhm.
The remainder of the structure then kind of complies back into the full elevation, if you would say. But we just decided to put, just for everyone's knowledge, a comparison of what is there in that glaze, because obviously when you're there, it's a very large glazed wall.
Mhm.
It has not been problematic for the eastern neighbor. The eastern neighbors lived with it for many years. And so our removal is 42 inches down, about 8 to 10 feet plus or minus long, where the existing kitchen is backed up to.
Okay, can you just explain the fact, if I may, that really it's the removing of an opaque piece in the lower part of this easterly wall
That is
which is responsible for the small increase in the glazing.
That is
That's
correct.
really important, I think, for the board to realize.
If I may show up on the board, I know it's difficult for the people that are Zoom, but if the people in the area can get a better example. This situation right here has an opaque panel. Yep, a little bit lower, yeah, so it's only at this height here in that corner. And that opaque panel is the one panel that's coming out just to be able to achieve the egress and then way the property flows in that area.
So it's what's being opened and put into glass is quite low lying.
Yes.
Okay.
If you scroll down, obviously, we did all the lighting studies. We were very, very concerned about light, the night sky aspect of it. We did have George Sexton, a very comparable lighting designer, go through and check out all the calculations. So the increase to the neighboring side is extremely minimal. We are increasing the planting between the area. We're going to include evergreens and some regular stuff so that during the winter time, it doesn't become more distracting. However, since it has been there, it's pre-existing is the intent of that aspect.
Okay,
And so we hopefully respectfully understand that it's really the flow of the barn that's being changed, and that's the one reason why those pieces are kind of coming out.
So just so I understand, on the east side, those two opaque panels are being removed and replaced with glass.
That is correct. And if you want to scroll back to the
Yeah.
the question is,
42 inches.
into this.
If you go back,
from that.
We just emphasize that.
so just to reemphasize, those panels are only 42 inches above grade. That are being removed. It's not the entire glass, there's just a section, so if you were to scroll up.
The rest of the glass is there.
Well, exactly, I'm sorry, it's not, sorry, the entire area is not being changed for glass, just from the counter height down from a section from here to that wall over there.
And the neighbors are accustomed to the rest of the glass.
Very accustomed to the rest of the glass, and again, it's only at this waist level down area that's being reflected in that change. And so we just wanted to highlight this existing barn just for understanding purposes. But in our assessment, it's very minimal in our long aspect of the.
I understand, but if we look at the chart that reviews this, because for the existing barn glazing analysis, the south view has 24% in the existing. Now you're jumping that to 45%.
Correct.
So it's almost double.
This is on the south.
That's the south side.
Right on the south.
That's the south side.
But I need the board to realize that, because this is very, very tiny writing, and I'd like to zoom in on these specific
It's
points.
still 207.
We're still on 207, yes. For those people who are on Zoom and trying to read things on computers and so forth. So that glazing analysis there, if we can just,
I think if you go a little further lower, that's for the first side. You'll see the two between there.
and that's the sound, yeah. Can we zoom in on that?
Might I ask, what document is this on the Google Drive so I can pull it up on a larger screen?
A207.
It's 2021-1018, 135 Crestview drawing, the first one.
So just to clarify what I was getting at, On the south side, there's already a roll-up door where that little gentleman is standing in that area. And there's already a horizontal window that goes up over those 3 beams on the right side of the area. So the area that's being increased again is just the top section of that space there. So yes, it is increasing, and the lower area is increasing to kind of keep.
And the portion of 2-story glass on the left is all new construction.
That is correct.
Okay.
The 2-story sections, what?
All new construction.
New construction.
Right, and this is the thing where we're not picking up on some of that. I'm not sure that everyone realizes that, especially those on Zoom that are looking for the file. So can we move on to another side of the structure that goes up, please?
So this is the western side of the section. This is the side that so the side that is below the steps is below grade from being visible.
Right.
And the side above is to the western neighbor based on a lot of compromise that they wanted. And we achieved that through the limiting of the design inside. The one thing this project has going forward is it's a linear project. So the view from the river, the beach side is very narrow. It's not a long one, long aspect.
I understand, I've been to the site, but this is all with vertical screening, is that correct?
Vertical screening, correct, but there's only a few translucent windows.
And this is on the west, is that correct?
That is correct.
And a lot of it's subterranean.
Yes, all the stuff that's in gray and below the white line is all subterranean. So that is not noticeable coming to any vines planted out on, this is the hill that has been approved by the zoning planning board or kind of come down in this lower area. All everything above is all flowers, a few areas of very light gaps.
And in the total calculation, do you include the partially screened glazing as a percentage?
Yes, it did.
And what percentage?
We actually use that as it's 75% actually.
Okay.
It is going to be tighter based on the design, but obviously, you know, that's a screening becomes a flexible thing. We are going tighter with the joints. A lot tighter. This is obviously the area that was being questioned before. This is the northern side, the one that was most potentially conflicting with the neighbor. But as we mentioned, the glazing is already existing and it's just the lower section from waist down on the one side that is
Eastern side.
correct. It would be.
You said northern, I just want to make sure.
Oh, I apologize. The northern side of that barn, but yeah, the eastern neighbor in that lower section.
So the glazing to the left of the barn structure
is
on the
new.
newer section, that's all new?
That is all new, but it exists in the existing structure. There is glazing in the same area. We've just pushed it back
Pushed it back from the beach,
from the beach.
but there is, as Chairman White says, you do have some increase from what's existing there.
And that is due to on the barn side of it, yes. And the other side, no, there is no. There is a little increase, but it's not as dramatic because the same 2 levels are just being moved back to 139 square feet.
Are there any questions from Zoom members of the board for clarification on this?
I must admit that this particular presentation on Zoom has been as complicated to understand as any I've seen before. But understanding that the left side of this particular picture is new construction, I don't understand the argument that because you're just adding a small amount, we should approve it, when the glazing as a whole would be something on a new construction we wouldn't approve because of the magnitude. It's just a very odd argument to say, yeah, we have more glazing than you would approve, but we're only adding a little bit. So why don't you approve some more? This is a massive amount of clear glass.
It is, it's 52% on the south exposure.
This is the east that we're looking at, is it?
No, this is south.
Yeah, just a little bit of the south.
Oh, that's, I'm sorry, yeah.
The east is 67%, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the lion's share that exists.
Yes, the lion's share that exists, the adjustment in the flow of the existing structure of the barn is as John mentioned, the lion's share of where the adjustments would occur. Right now, there is the glazing is designed per George Sexton to have clear glazing and meet the town code for the off-gassing of the, off-lighting of the area.
And in the westerly edition, we're in compliance.
We're
fully in
actually
compliance.
well in compliance there. It's on a
So-
offsetting it.
So I'm a little unclear. This portion at the left, to the left of the barn, how much more glazing is on that than was previously on the existing?
To get a previous count, note, there's the glazing was already there. It's probably increased by 10% or so, 15%.
And the barn, I just want to make sure, I think you're asking to the new.
I'm asking the new
To the
addition,
left.
how much more glazing is there than was on the old portion that's being taken down?
Understand. But what I wanted to say, what I wanted to make sure the board is clear is on that new addition. It was the rebuilding of the westerly portion. That portion is in compliance, correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
In compliance.
With the code.
Right, but that's not answering the question that she proposes, which is, what is the glazing now in the old structure compared to what you're proposing for the new structure? Whether compliance is a very gray area, because night glow is a major concern for the village.
Yeah, I understand, but it is nevertheless, and we'll get the answer to your question, but it is nevertheless important to point out that new pod, for lack of a better description, being constructed is in itself in compliance.
Okay.
That's all. So please respond to the board member's question.
Can
Yes.
you have my pictures that I took on the site visit from the beach? Can we take a couple looks at that just to see what's going on with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you go in, is it in within them?
Yeah.
This is how much.
These are.
These are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is on the south is proposed glazing for what they're proposing is 52%. It is not clear, nor is it, to me, it's not clear that the existing, you're labeling your specifications here with existing barn glazing analysis as opposed to what you have in the overall project.
We added that just to separate that piece out.
I know, but that's what is missing. We're trying to get an idea how much glazing you're actually adding to this structure, to the neighborhood.
Yes.
And that seems to be what's not really clear.
Yeah, but if you have a situation, this is really important from a land use point of view. If I've got a situation where I've got a pre-existing non-conforming structure, which I clearly do here by reason of the glazing on the east side, my addition has to comply. You can't take an omnibus view and say, now you've got to take off 50% of that glazing on the existing, because that's a pre-existing non-conforming. I've got to comply, let me finish if I may, Chairman. I've got to comply with my new stuff, and if I want not to comply, I've got to come here hat in hand and ask you to give me some help on that, but I don't have to comply overall. If you have, say, a 20% glazing overall, I've got to comply with my new addition, but you can't penalize me because I have a pre-existing non-conforming structure that has conforming glazing. That's not the way it works.
And the compromise on the western side dramatically offsets the percentages that have been approved on the structure.
Right.
You have very little glazing on the western side.
John, would you talk next time, please, so that the board can see it from Zoom?
Okay, so can we, I believe I took some pictures live from the dune, looking back at the property. That's the ones that I'm looking for.
So not your pictures? I think
Those
when we redid them.
those are drone or satellite pictures.
This is what I
I
have.
did the whole thing, stones.
I did not fly this drone, no.
This is over there.
These are your photographs, Chairman?
No.
Oh. No,
These
these
were
are.
Google Earth.
Keep it sharing.
So can I just summarize? So I if I'm being dense.
No.
The old part, the pre-existing part, the barn part is being increased by those two panels.
Yes.
And the other part is being increased by,
Just the design and just the
so the
structure.
glazing is not being increased on the new part.
Well, the new part obviously increases.
Well, it's bigger.
Because it's a bigger
it's bigger.
structure.
So I'm trying to get what that number is.
Stay there.
So depicted on the screen right now is what is existing. There's a glass railing on the second story on the left, a sliding glass door, and the 48-inch wall on the right side of the barn. Is that
Correct,
correct?
and there's also a glazed opening above a deck into a bedroom space. It's actually not able to be seen from this area.
Which structure are we speaking of?
On where her cursor is actually.
The left wing?
Yes, the left
Okay.
wing of the structure.
Yes.
And then you can see
And what does the west side look at in terms of fenestration? What's over there?
the west side is we're
Almost
looking at
nothing.
pure evergreen tree space. And then there's glazing around the corner of that bedroom space over there.
That's the barn.
And
There's
that's
no view
the,
of
that's the barn and the space there.
no, there's no view of the west side of the westerly portion of the house there. That's what I'm trying to point out. There's no view, you don't have a view of the existing westerly side there. What's the fenestration on the existing westerly side?
It was very minimal.
Okay.
Yes, that is actually where our biggest compromise is coming in. And you can see by removing that section of the part on the left of the screen there, that's what opens up that wall space in there. So by removing that piece of the structure is where we're compromising coming back to be able to get us far less from the rest of the dune. And there's already glazing connecting between the chimney. We're keeping the chimney in the same location.
So,
And you have to do these things organically as well in terms of effect on the dune. We're, as a result of significant back and forth with the zoning board of appeals, there's a substantial retreat to the north.
Those on Zoom are not able to hear or see you well.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm done for now. Next time I'll stand up. Thank you. I'm sorry.
okay, so with these explanations and these further observations, where are we with the glazing? Is it something that we wish to address further or not?
I think, though, joining this slightly late, and I really don't want to damage the position of our applicant. The argument that because you have a non-conforming use, that you could add glazing, which makes it even worse, we would be penalizing the applicant by saying, we don't want you to put the additional glazing on. I don't think that holds water. You're taking advantage of a particular circumstance. We understand that. And saying we don't want to make it worse is not a penalty. You bought it as is. So I'm not persuaded that any action by this board in trying to protect the neighborhood and the overall community standards is inappropriate here.
Now, the existing glazing.
Let me respond to that if I can. First of all, it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure which is being moved back. That's why I'm trying to ask you to look at it organically.
Let's turn that just a second. I'd like to get the.
I thought it was on.
the panel.
I thought it was random. Sorry, pardon the interruption.
Nick, any comments?
Yeah, there's Nick Martin on the board just speaking from Zoom. The issue that Robert is bringing up is an important one, because obviously we're setting a standard here for potential other applications. I think the architect is trying to be sensitive with what is existing and what is proposed. However, the counts of these, this is right on the beach and in direct sight of the public. So this is an application that's important. The numbers are just quite high. And I wonder if there might be another way to mitigate it, either rain screen or some other methodology, skylights or some other. And I understand the client's point of view. They have a house on the ocean. They want to see the ocean. They want to have as much glazing as possible. Have we discussed, or has there been any effort in using glass that's that's technically allowing less light emission from it?
Yes, there is. Currently, right now, there is a tinted glass on it. You'll notice it was a very dark tint. We do need to have tinted solar aspect into it, and we're planning to use a tinted glass to it. We would
And
do
what percentage is that?
percentage of glass glazing. Right now, we've been looking some at the, I think it's 6.
Percentage of tinting in the glass. There are energy conserving ranges of glass, and then there are actual tints that are going to protect the environment from glare, night glow, when we have foggy nights and stuff like that. So if you can be specific about what material that you're looking at.
Right now, we're looking at a Guardian glass, and they have a 59% off-gassing, which significantly reduces the tint. It still has a nice quality for the client, but it definitely reflects it in more of a similar situation that is there now. You'll notice the glazing there is also in that 50 to 60%.
Okay, so all that said, and thank you for saying that. So I guess the next question is, has the client considered other means, or is there another option that the board can see? We obviously want to push you through. We don't want this to linger to future dates. Is there another option you could show us that's going to possibly be more approved by the board? Currently, I don't think you have a unified acceptance.
If we were to present a glazing that we can work on through the process of continuing forward, that everyone will be approved with the amount of light transmission, we'd be glad to work with people. The barn is the only area of real concern. Right now, the existing glazing that's there, I can't tell you exactly the amount of glazing analysis. It is a very dark glazing, if you can pull up the aerial images of it.
But we're going to have to give that to the board and make it a condition and offer it, not just say we're working on something. I think, I could be wrong, but I think that's what is.
Sorry, Nick. We definitely are willing to use glazing. We would hope to be able to work with the board as we just pursue and just finalize the next glazing transmission color. If you do zoom in, you'll notice that the comparison is very.
If you just look at this, just as an example, look at this image that's being presented, and look at the other houses in the neighborhood. Obviously, 135 is wildly higher in percentage of glass than anything, and that was probably due to previous boards allowing larger percentage of glass. And again, this is a hot topic, as are gates on our board. The concept here is that we're trying to allow each person on their own property to enjoy what it is that they purchase, and not to be affected by neighborhood glare. And when a house is lit up brightly, you're also seeing all the activity going on in that house. So it's a meaningful discussion. I'm sure this client would like to have more glass, and they're trying to help. But currently, I think if you're interested in getting acceptance from the board, I would recommend you provide options that show further sensitivity.
Can I interject, if I may? I just want to, hopefully we'll move things along. I think it's pretty clear that we have to come back and explore some other mitigation measures. So we'll be coming back. Is there anything else design related that the board has a concern with? Because I just want to see if we can get to the part of the matter and work on that.
I personally have a concern with the wall of glass on the new portion. That's as glaring as the barn itself.
Okay.
It's essentially the full wall of the building. The fact that there's very little glazing on the other side of the building doesn't mitigate the fact that there's a wall of glazing on this side.
Okay, understood. So that's essentially, I'll call it under the general category of fencing. Is there anything else in the design, materials, elevations, that's site settings?
Just the glazing with.
They're
Okay. So I just want to make sure what we're being tasked to look at the proper items, that's all. And I know it ain't until it's over, as I say, but I'm just, trying to be.
I don't blame them for wanting all that glass. I would too, but
Yeah,
you know.
no, I understand. I try to make sure that from a point of view of style, materials, lines, elevations, that there's nothing that's sticking in anyone's craw. And again, I know it's not over, it's over. You know,
Right.
so-
Could we take, just for the benefit of those without a packet at hand, could we take a look at A01.6, which includes the night rendering from the beach? It's a ways down off the beach, but it does give you an idea of what we're talking about and trying to illuminate that. No pun intended, but it's the upper right-hand corner there on the screen now.
So the one thing I'd like to add is 5 houses down from the structure, there are 2 areas with houses with almost twice the amount of glazing that face the actual water arrow in their new structures. And there's also one to the north of it, right at the end of Crestview Lane before the association, that it too does have a tremendous amount of glazing. I do have an image of them here on my iPad. I don't know if I can present it up to the screen. Is it possible I can present it to the board itself?
You could
Just
pass it along here, yeah.
this house is 5 houses down,
Mhm.
and this house is 6 houses down. And the amount of glazing that actually faces the street
Is that-
or that faces the south,
142 Crestview, is that one foot?
I would probably say so. I can't.
At the end of Crestview?
But these houses are broad facing, so the amount of glass that's being viewed across the way is tremendously more. And I think it's important that those are newer structures. They were approved in the board. They were required to have the lighting scenario that we also presented, but we are very willing to look at tints to make and look at that. And if that's the only objection, it would be great to.
Can that be airdropped to be displayed?
I think so. Do you want to?
Airdrop it to display by
I would
the.
love
Maybe you
to.
should put that in the record in the sentence helpful. But suffice to say, I know you guys are busy and everybody is busy, and I'm just trying to drill down on what we have to work on. I'm just trying, and I'm not trying to sandbag anybody, I'm just trying to be productive. Is there anything other than the amount of glass that's expected?
I think that's the major concern at this point, yes.
Okay, I understand that.
The night glass.
I understand that, Chairman White, but I'm just trying to be, when we go back and look at things, I want to make sure that there's anything else that the board is concerned about.
Anthony, any words to offer?
No, I had one question on I guess what I'm now learning is the new part of the house. It's a little confusing. With the 2 levels of glass, there's
Yeah.
outdoor access on the 2nd floor. And is that a glass railing?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Maybe looking at something, an opaque railing or something that would effectively cut the view from a lot of places could be more effective, or in conjunction with glazing. But I do think that the board has never made a very specific exact amount of glass, because it should purposes of people gaming the system and something. So it is, while pre-existing non-conforming does make sense, to not look at it holistically really ruins our effect on the community.
Right.
Because we're
Okay.
trying to actually make things less sort of, of an imposition to other people.
Although it's my understanding that the reason for the legislation was glass that was in front of something that was light emitting.
That includes protected in public spaces as well.
Excuse me?
That includes protected in public spaces as well. The beach is everyone's property.
No, you're missing my point. If you have a design issue with that, I'd like to know that. But from a point of view of it's just more glass, the legislation, again, I could be wrong. As I read it, and as the whole rationale was, it was glass in front of something that was light emitting. We just have, it's a glass handrail, a glass railing doesn't do that. And do you have, and to the extent that you have impact from the neighborhood, I think it's very probative and very important that this is a homeowners association, and the homeowners association has approved it. So I'm just trying to, understand the concern about the glass railing. Is it a design question?
Okay, just a suggestion of a way to mitigate the effects of light to sort of allow board members to feel more comfortable approving it.
But a glass railing that doesn't in itself have.
It does pick up reflexivity.
It would block the light behind it. Again, it seems to be a loophole where we're not talking about the fenestration, but the effects of it. And so a window with a piece of metal in front of it no longer has its effects on people.
All right, thank you.
As far as the homeowners association, that's great that they all approve, but it is adjacent to a public area also.
No, I'm just, it all gets thrown in the mix in terms of what's.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other design questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I think we know what our task is. If that's okay with you?
Is it, I said the one thing is, would the board be considering, would consider proceeding forward with an analysis of just the glazing transmission and being able to try to keep what we have, but try to just mitigate the light off gassing from the glass using itself.
I think I'm hearing from the board that they want us to take a view of all potential mitigation. So let's do that. I mean, I think that's what I heard.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Very good, thank you, Kimberly. Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank the board for having these in-person meetings. I really appreciate it. I think it's much more effective. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we're revisiting 230 Town Line Road. You have a packet of information presented as a request to amend so we're going to review this, and we may adjourn it without a decision, just to consider it. And we can also pose questions on how we got here, but also just to try and hear it through. And yes.
I'm Russell Blue, the architect on this job. So this was previously permitted. We made some minor revisions where we reduced the amount of glass, reduced the amount of deck. There's a full basement where there was a crawl space. And we have all vertical siding instead of a somewhat of a little bit of horizontal siding in the original. And they're all side by side on those sheets that you're looking at. We changed the railings to a more Sagaponic.
It would be helpful if you can explain the reasoning, not what you did, but why you did it as
Sure,
well,
sure.
so that we have a better understanding
So
of what has transpired.
sure, we added about 200 square feet on the corner so that the homeowners didn't have to walk directly from the living room into their bedrooms on both floors. So it was a total of about 400 square feet additional. We reduced the amount of windows because the homeowners were sensitive to the local community and didn't really want as large a window size. We relocated the vertical.
Again, if you can be more specific as to where these enlargements went, that would be helpful for our understanding.
So there are a couple of changes overall. The first page on the last submission shows the survey difference.
Page number?
A0.
No.
Okay. All right,
A0 is the survey.
it's the what?
It's a survey.
Okay,
Then A1 is the lighting.
We're looking at the first submission. We made a submission of side by side between the old and the new. That was the last thing that you guys asked for.
how many of these do we have? Okay. Are there more of these? The side by side? And do you have the ability to project that?
And we can just,
Again.
so Russell, is this is what you submitted to me, correct? You gave me this.
No, this is the first submission. No, this is the side by side. Well, this is the first submission.
Oh, you gave me.
You're showing me this. This was originally submitted in December. That submitted on January 10th is what I'm holding in front of you right now. You guys asked for side-by-side comparison of the previously permitted work. Sure.
You have this, right?
No,
We used it when we went to the site.
I didn't bring it.
Oh, okay.
Is that correct? Okay.
This is the only thing that's been approved, right? It's up against the only thing that's been approved.
I'm not exactly sure what was approved.
What have we approved to begin with? Has anything been approved here? What did we look at and say yes?
The last time we looked at it was for the front entry. It was almost a year ago. Pat is in the office trying to locate the second set of plans.
I submitted 5 sets.
Okay,
Well, there has to be a plan of whatever we approved so that he could build the house.
well, the house was built and then it was modified, and then the front porch came in for modification. And that
So
took,
this is a new house.
well, it's adapted, yes, from what was.
Well, it's in the middle of the first.
Tom,
Yeah.
if I may interrupt, I think that it would be appropriate for you to state explicitly for the record the historical issues here, so we have everything in one place as to the initial submission, the change that was approved for the front entrance, which I remember quite clearly, what has happened since then, what has been done with approval or without approval, so we know for the record what we're talking about today. Because what we're asking for here is what has been done versus what was approved. I think the record needs to show why we're asking that question.
Right, so on these sets, it's
I
the
asked
approved
for
is
some-
on the upper and the lower is what is attached to it. No, Pat, you-
That's why I thought it was good that we would read this one.
I sent it to you electronically. Yeah.
So as we. The upper part is the permitted. So there was a difference in what he's talking about.
See what? That's what really must have created this.
It's confused.
I want to start from the beginning here,
Yeah,
if I could, from the very first time we saw this thing.
okay. So at what point was, for the record, Nick is recusing himself for this application and Anthony Woods is stepping in as an active member. What was the date of the first set of plans that was submitted to the village?
I'm not sure I know that date.
That's when I see whatever we approved.
Yeah.
I want to start from the beginning. This is so confusing.
Well, this is what was approved. These are the permitted.
This is
what we-
permitted stuff?
Yes, everything above is what was
Okay.
permitted. This is what was done.
Okay.
These are,
And
in other
so-
words, this is side by side, this is side by side.
Okay, thank you.
And the same thing on every page.
Okay,
This. is
so
what we
this is
approved,
Nick's,
That's correct.
depiction here.
And this is what,
And is this dated anywhere?
It's in September of 2018.
Okay,
This was originally September, October, maybe. We got the permit in, the original permit was November of 18.
okay, thank you.
And does that include, I can't fully tell on the, on this rendition or rendering. Does that include the cantilevered staircase protruding off the facade?
We relocated the stair tower to the roof deck because it was going past the master bedroom. So we didn't, the owners were uncomfortable with the stair tower going by their bedroom.
So the stair tower did not exist, is that correct?
No, it was approved. This is how it was approved. Here's the stair tower. Now the stair tower is in the,
It's on this side, right?
You realize that we don't see any of that. I mean, I can't see any of the things that you're discussing.
Right.
It's on the screen. Are you not sharing? Yeah.
yeah,
I could have someone point out on the screen what was approved, what was done without approval. So I could actually see it, because just saying that a determination was made by a homeowner
okay,
to
so,
change the position of a staircase without seeking approval for that
okay, so.
does
you
not
can-
sit well with me.
You can see the screen though, right? Can you see the screen of the houses, of the house?
Well, all I see is right now a front elevation north, a side elevation west is the only picture that is on my screen.
Okay, so the top part of the page, the top left is how it was permitted. And the right side of the page is how it was permitted. Below that is how it was built on both, that's the side by side. And in this case, it's too long to go side by side. It's up above and below. Above is all the approved drawings. Below are the two as-built conditions. We relocated the stair tower from the west side of the house to the south side of the house, so it didn't go by the bedrooms.
Okay,
Okay, and we also flattened the land that was man-made berms originally. This was flat farmland. We took out the berms that were there. So again, the top of the page. The top of the page.
This is.
Yes. I mean, this is.
If I could just state, it's Nick Martin. One of the main issues is that the drawings are not aligning up. So the reason you're trying to fill the page with 4 drawings, but essentially for a layman, you're not aligning the elevations correctly above and below. So it's
Yeah.
hard to.
I understand. The thing is, these are on 36 by 48, and the next size is, I don't even know. I don't think I've done it.
Maybe it's just one set of elevations per page, just so that it could clearly be. Anyway, it's just a recommendation.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But we understand that the staircase was moved. Can we
Okay.
go on to the next set of?
Sure.
changes
So
that
we
were-
added a slight piece. If you want to go to the plans, I could do that.
Is it visible from here? Is it visible from this set of plans? What you're gonna talk about?
And you also changed the windows.
Right, we made less windows, exactly. Way less. This is
No, I get it.
Okay.
So the plans are on page. The more important is like the first floor and the second floor as opposed to the basement. So that's A3 and A4. So again, the top of the page is what was approved. I'll walk you through if you'd like. We added a small piece in the corner. I'll do it.
This is A3, the upper depiction.
Right, so you can see the stair tower moved from the left-hand side to the center, so it doesn't go by the bedrooms. And we added a small piece on the corner right there so that you could walk through from the living room into the bedrooms as opposed to walking right into the bedroom.
What happens inside the house?
Well, I think it was this.
I mean, the shape of the addition is the same, it's just, it's 4 feet. Toward the south.
Right, so that's the additional walkway on
That's
this
what
one. Okay, thank you. Anything else that you want
And
to?
there's less deck, we don't have as much deck.
There's no deck on the western face of the building or the northern face.
Right,
of
we
the
had decks on a few different sides that we've eliminated.
Anything else that you're presenting in this modification?
I'll just say, this is, I'm the
This is
homeowner,
Dan.
my name's Daniel Gans. So we decreased the size of the burned areas that were approved, there are less hills.
The what areas?
The burned
Okay.
hills,
Right, so you regraded the property and added a basement that's habitable as opposed to a crawl space.
instead of a crawl space,
And what is the square footage of that additional space?
it's the same as the space above it.
So the additional square footage total to the house is how much?
The total to the house, including the basement,
Yes, that's
about
added.
2,100
Okay,
square feet. More, I'm sorry.
It's about 20 by 30 basically, so it's about 600 a floor.
1,800.
600 a floor.
1,800.
Well, if you include the basement, yes.
yeah, okay.
So that's 1,800. Total.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so at this point, Anthony and Robert, do you have any questions? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and get these plans out to you so that you can actually understand them, because it's very confusing here with these huge plans on the table, which when they're reduced, you can hardly read any of the notation on them.
Tom,
Yes,
the lack of clarity here is very disturbing to me. I look forward to getting the plans to look at it. But
Okay.
our purview is external. I mean, we would be absolutely happy and have no problem if somebody revised every internal wall of their house without talking to us as the architectural review board. It is not our purview. They can change the color on the inside. They can change the walls. They can't change the windows. They can't change the decks. They can't change the staircases on the outside. Okay, I believe that the attempt to make it clear as to what has been done beyond what was approved is, and I'm sorry to use the word inept. I mean, it's not, it should be clear as can be to any observer, much less one who's been doing this for a while, as to this was what was and this is what is.
right.
And if I don't have that, I don't know what I'm looking at.
I understand. That's why I think getting these side by sides out to you, there's presently maybe two of these in existence for the board to review, and that's insufficient. So other general comments as to what has been modified?
But Tom, I'm sorry, I agree. Thank you. I look forward to it. Is it that what has been brought to us is a request to approve what they've done? None of the approvals being given now are for further changes.
I believe that's correct, but John could verify that. Is that correct?
Please repeat.
Could you repeat?
Is the application proposing this amendment for us to approve what they have done that differs from what was authorized, or is part of this approval for additional changes beyond what is now currently there?
No, they're seeking approval for what is currently there beyond what was originally approved.
Okay, very good, and that's correct.
So better to ask forgiveness than ask permission is basically where we are. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay, very good.
This is a whole new application, Tom.
I understand your viewpoint. I'm just trying to ascertain where some of the issues are, and also to clarify from the board's perspective, are there any other questions that board members presently have on this information and what's been proposed, or I'm sorry, not proposed, presented?
I guess if Mr. Blue, does he consider that the hardscaping and the excavation, the regrading of the property in his newest plans he's submitting now is a pretty true representation of what's going on in the property right now?
Yeah, we have a survey that is current right now, that is on the front page of this, after this, today's submission.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to get this out to the rest of the board.
Yes, okay, yeah, okay. Very good. I think we need time to digest all of this. And so I'm going to ask to adjourn this at this point in view of getting some of this information out to some folks that aren't right here in the building. Is there a motion to do that?
Well, no, clarify it for me. What are we looking at here? This is what we approved.
This is what he had permission to do in
Permission
2018.
to do.
Yes.
Now we're looking at, I would say, a different house. This should be a new application. He should, if this is what he wants, this is what he should ask for.
Well, he is asking for it now.
Yeah, that is the nature of the application now.
But there's no punishment for not building what we approved?
I
There's
think
a risk. There's a big risk, I guess, if it's not approved.
that's a question more for the village building department and code enforcement to deal with. You know, I believe there's a stop work order on the property and there's going to be issues related to that. But for at least for now, for the AHRB's consideration, their jurisdiction, you're limited really to looking at the application before you and, using your judgment to render the determination on what's
Okay.
before you.
Very good. Thank you.
I have one question. Is the purpose of the cantilevered staircase off the front to keep the stairs off the windows?
To keep it from going past the bedroom.
The bedroom was on the middle floor, if you will.
Is that something you could have looked into and not relocating the staircase from the west side and cantilevering it there? I'm not even sure if that would be a different approval, but
Tony, I don't think we're prepared to talk about why they did what they did. They did certain things, and we're gonna take a look at it now and then focus on what should go forward. I mean, we already have a situation where none of this should have been done, period. None of it.
mhm.
Okay, very good. So I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Russell.
Did the board get to go visit the site?
Most everybody did go. There was very complete set of photographs taken, and they have access to that on the drive.
Who made the first motion?
The only thing on what's being presented now. No, I don't know. Well, that's up to the inspection. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so next thing up is a application for new construction. Having visited this site, there was no marking as to where the lot was located on the neighbor's driveway. There is no driveway to this site. And so those are, if you look at your application, those are requirements to allow the board to actually find the right location. So I was able to verify that while I was Google mapping and sitting in the neighbor's driveway, but going forward, please be aware that that's necessary so that we actually can find a place. To catch some of the folks up, you're familiar with the Deacon Hedges house on Hedges Lane, some of you?
Yes.
There was a division of that property, and a large scale, more modern house was permitted behind it. And the lot that we're speaking about is actually behind that new location. So it would be the third house back off of Hedges Lane. And there is a neighbor to the left and a neighbor behind them, I believe, if my memory is correct, or somewhat accurate at this point. Without delaying anything further, could we go ahead and begin your presentation on this?
Sure thing. We have myself, Matthew LeBrake, and Amanda from Blaise McCoy's office. And then we have Dan Thorpe and John Hamilton on from LaGuardia as well.
Thank you.
Okay. So as you stated, it is significantly off the road by a flag lot, two properties off. And it's actually enclosed on all sides by pretty heavy screening that's already existing. So our big picture strategy here was actually to reduce any impact on kind of any neighboring lots. So rather than proposing a two-story structure, which I noticed it was called out as in the agenda. It's actually a one-story structure, just to reduce kind of any visual impact of the architecture from any of the neighboring lots as best as possible. So this is actually the approach view coming off of that flag lot. And then the main entry here, it's a series of cedar clad volumes with the accessory or attached garage to the left here. And then these are actually the guest bedrooms. We have examples of those materials in the lower left corner. So it's the cedar cladding as well as champagne aluminum for the metal detailing. This is the view from the north and the rear. So these are those guest bedrooms on the left, the main public space in the middle, and then the master bedroom off to the right here. And Jen or John, feel free to chime in if there's anything you want to note as well. The approach at night as well. You can see kind of main entry, those bedrooms illuminated, as well as this is actually the kitchen beyond that you just get a glimpse of. And then the rear, where you have those guest bedrooms, once again, the master bedroom and master bath, as well as that main public space. Now this is the neighboring view from the south. As you can see, these are those two other lots that we were referring to before. And this is actually from the street of that flag lot and the various driveways as well. So there's really no existing impact or site or visual connection to the site. And then this was the closest we could really get from the neighboring road as well. But once again, you can see fairly heavily screened and vegetated existing. Now, regarding the square footages and the calculations, we have an allowable GFA of just over 9,000, and we're falling just under 9,000 at 8,961. That's including our accessory structures as well as any substantial overhangs as per the code. And Jen or John, I'm not sure if there's anything you want to hit on the landscape plan. I can guide here.
Yeah, I mean, Dan Thorpe, landscape architect for the client, LaGuardia Design Group. You know, fairly simplistic approach. It's a pre-existing vacant farm field, so the idea is to our approach is quite pastoral. It's a lot of native meadows. We're trying to show some restraint in what becomes lawn or recreational lawn areas. The balance of the site would be given way to native grasses as a way to be a little more environmentally sensitive to developing a lot of this scale, especially a flat lot. Preserving the surrounding perimeter, or what's there now, would be bolstered with additional vegetation, evergreen vegetation. It's a one-story house, so that vegetation doesn't have to be towering in order to have a visual impact for privacy from both the outside looking in and the inside looking out. And creating more of a park-like landscape of large shade trees. We've actually done an extensive amount of mapping of the neighbors' existing trees to the what is that, Matt? To the south, the way the plan reads.
This would actually be the west here, south.
West, to the west. Right, okay. To the west, you'll see there's a lot of labels on the plan. We did through drone mapping and site visits. We did an extensive amount of mapping of the existing neighbors' trees just because we didn't know if they were on our client's lot or their lot. The majority of them are on the neighbor's lot. And what we're proposing is to complement those trees by specifying similar species on our side of the lot line to kind of unify our landscape with theirs.
Very good. Thank you. Yes,
On the landscape plan, it says that the vegetation at the edge is privet. I thought you said it was evergreen.
yeah, 10 order for them.
Right. So, yeah. So the proposed perimeter would be privet, and then I believe on the north side is evergreen.
Well, it says there's cryptomeria there.
Right. So those are preserved. So that's heavy evergreen, and then I believe the neighbor to the east has heavy evergreen screening that you may have seen if you took a
So what you're
drive down to the site.
is actually privet.
Right. Correct.
I see there's some existing arborvitae and some existing cryptomeria. So.
Right. So just to clarify, we would be leaving the evergreen screening that's there now and wrapping the site in new privet hedging, 10-foot tall privet hedging.
Part of that.
Any other comments or questions on the landscape plan?
I don't think so.
John, is the parking area in front of the house on the right-hand side as you enter in, is that permitted?
Yes, that means side yard and front yard.
Okay, it is side yard. I see it. Okay, thank you.
We've also included our elevations with the associated glazing percentages for reference as well.
What document is that?
This is it's associated with the permit set. Should be page B006 on the permit set drawings.
Okay.
And B005.
I'm not sure we have those.
Amanda, a set of those were dropped off, correct?
Yeah, correct.
We don't have that.
We don't seem to have those at the present time. We haven't located them yet, anyway.
This is the package I got, and that's not included.
Okay.
It includes what's up on the board, which you have.
No, we have that. It's the lighting things.
Yeah.
I don't have.
Was there any questions while we're looking through for that lighting analysis? Is there any other questions from the members of the board?
Are there houses on either side?
There's a bunch of driveways here. This is under construction for the big house behind. There's a large house over here and there's a neighbor back here, but it's also. No, Deacon Hedges is way the heck up here.
It's way behind Deacon Hedges.
Yeah. Do you have a Was there a satellite shot with this or no? Did I send it?
This is.
We have it.
You do have a satellite shot?
Yes.
Okay.
That should be it.
You see the Deacon Hedges is way out in front. That's the one that I sent in.
It's farm field.
Yes, well, the front portion of that field, you already granted permission for that huge house.
Moi.
Wow, yeah, Okay, so if we could get a hold of that light analysis, that would be helpful. This is the field set. You can see the house there is basically the neighbor to the west, and the little path on the left of the picture is right up against the line of the large lot, which is located behind Deacon Hedges' historical house. Okay. If you could get that lighting analysis to us, that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure thing. Apologies.
Were there any other questions from the board? Nick?
It's a beautiful house.
Just give me a moment, please.
Yeah.
Did we just go over I think the page did show general glass calculations. Could we just see those?
Yeah.
Also, is there a way of seeing, I have it on Google Earth Pro, but is there a way of seeing the site in relation to the neighbors and distances therein? Yeah, there we go. Could we just stay on that drawing for a second? That's first.
This one or the previous one?
The previous one, yeah. The one that shows the site with the neighbors.
Nick, I know the site pretty well in terms of having, the sculpture garden is just to the west below this site. It's portion thereof.
Yeah,
then there's a home
I've spent some time there.
between this site and the circle, and then there's a home
Mhm.
just north of it, I guess is.
Correct.
that
There's
where-
Right. Mhm.
Yeah.
So
They have
the neighbors
placed a
that were-
tennis court at the far east, I guess, of the premises. When I look at the
Mhm.
site plan.
Mhm.
But it's really, so there's 3 or 4 neighbor issues that I appreciate the amount of effort LaGuardia's group has done in the screening, but I guess I'm concerned about the winter views into the site. It's largely a 1-story structure. But if you can continue to the glass, that would be great.
Mhm. This elevation has the total percentages higher towards 70.7, mainly because of this main public space here.
Which aspect is that? I can't read. Is that south?
That's the
That's
north.
north.
Yeah.
%70% on the north.
That's the total.
Seems more of the yeah. Oh, that's total of all the glazing.
Mhm.
Would you be able to give us the percentages per elevation?
Yes. Let's see. We actually might have to just work through those.
Yeah, that's the most helpful way that we understand it, if you would.
In other words, if you were the neighbor to the east, how would that light affect you? And what kind of plantings, if they're coniferous or deciduous, and how would that view relate to them? That's really what we're after.
Yeah, I mean, on the side lots, we've really tried to reduce the amount of glazing. It's really, actually, if you take a look in plan, so we're trying to use the more solid pieces of program to block and shade the main public space. So for example, this neighbor to the east, we have kind of these bathroom cores and more fairly solid program where the bedrooms then open up onto the client's own kind of public space, pool space as well. Similarly with the master bedroom as well. And then also using kind of the garage to really shade and enclose this. this would be the area that has the most glazing. But as far as a strategy of using the house to kind of enclose itself, we thought it was fairly respectable to the neighbors to reduce the amount of glare that might occur, as well as keeping it to a one-story house.
And then the neighbor to the east also has an existing arborvitae hedge along their lot line. So, yep, right there. So that's an existing 10-foot high arborvitae hedge that's being left in place. We'll have our privet on our side of that, and then between our privet and the house, we're proposing, it's called a magnolia walk, but it's more of it's like a garden filled with low branched, fairly opaque trees. That's what all those different, those more circular icons represent. So it's going to be very well masked between those, through the use of all those layers.
Okay. Any further questions on anything outside of the light percentages?
To try and find it.
Yeah, likewise. So if you could work those out for us and we'll take a look at that. Is there any sense that you would, the board would like to move this to just a review committee of 2 for the light work, or do you want to look at that next month?
I'd rather look at it, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with Pingree there, because it is, though a one-story building, it is very substantial, and light doesn't just go in one direction. So I'd like to see it.
Right. Okay. Very good.
Understood.
So is there a motion to adjourn this to the February meeting?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Nice presentation. And that brings us up to an application to add a double-sided dormer on an existing single-family dwelling located at 101 Farm Court. Is Mr. Smith available? Mr. Smith?
He's here, he's in here.
Okay. Is that Pete iPhone 8?
No, he doesn't have a,
Oh.
an icon.
Are you muted, Peter?
Yes, I am here. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
Okay. Well, before I start, I'd like to thank Pat with all her help to try to get this application together. And I know it wasn't very many days ago, so I appreciate everybody taking the time to digest what we're really trying to achieve over here. And I'm not sure if everyone has seen the PDFs or the hard copies, but what we tried to provide over here is an additional room which is above the existing footprint of the house. We're not expanding the footprint. It's a space that has an existing ridge that's quite low. It's about 7'10". So we're proposing to raise this ridge. It will not be the tallest ridge. It will be a 24-foot ridge. The primary front ridge of the house facing Farm Court is 31 foot. The house was built in 97. It's
Do you want me to share or will you share?
if you could please, Pat. Thank you. So it's a kind of a classic American shingle style, traditional, as I said, built in 97. So our scheme is to really introduce the same vernacular and dormer pitches, fascia detail, match the siding. It's very much to be akin with what was there. We did a little lighting study. So toward, you can get a sense that we're really adding 3 traditional double hungs to each side of the dormer to provide a well-lit gym is their intention at this point for usage, and for an overflow bedroom if their whole family and crowd comes out in the summer.
Yeah, we don't have A6 or 7 in our packet as far as I can tell.
One of the earlier ones may not have, but I think the newer.
The one that's on the Google Drive has them, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
But I just never given a printout.
Okay, so if we could zoom in on this a little bit, that would be helpful. Perhaps we can move forward with this.
Well, we're just looking at the,
Right, but I'm just covering, so I'm covering. So I'm being covered. Okay, so,
Yeah, so what we did was we mapped the glazing, above and below to show the increase. So it's it directly corresponds to the drawing above. So you can see there's about a 3% increase in glazing on these 2 elevations. One would be roughly 43 feet back from the north side, and toward the south is some 110 or 120 feet from the neighboring properties.
very good. Thank you.
Right, so if you see, Mhm.
And so the portion of the roof that you're speaking of is right over that column that we were just looking at?
Exactly correct, right, so the pergola is in the foreground on the deck. So
Yep.
directly behind there is that sort of the terming it kind of the connector. And what we're proposing to do is to raise that ridge of the connector up to match the ridge just to the left of it in the photograph. Lower than the main ridge, but yes, that's the exact location out toward on the pool side.
Okay, very good. Any questions on this? Comments?
I just, from my own perspective, I think I need an image of what it would look from the picture we're looking at now, is how this particular dormer conforms with the item to the left. There are going to be 3 windows on the right-hand side in that middle with a raised roof line. And I just can't imagine what it looks like, and I'd like to see it.
If you look on sheet,
A4 up in the corner.
on, if you could possibly go to sheet A5.
Okay.
I have A5 on my Google map here, and that small picture.
Exactly. So on A4 is actually probably telling. So this is the. So you start to get a sense of the vocabulary is very much going to match the existing. We're matching the pitch, and I think that view on A5 there should pretty clearly show the proposed shed.
Could you go back to the current house, please?
Right, if you
The
compare
actual,
the photograph.
the actual picture.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I don't see, there are 4 windows on that left-hand side there. It's not reflected in that sketch. I just don't see the relationship.
It is.
Over the pergola, which is not reflected in the sketch, There are currently 4 windows on the left-hand side. Correct?
It's on the, zoom into that, if you can please, on the bottom. Down.
Okay, now I see 4 windows.
Yep.
And then the windows on this pergola, on this new dormer, have no relation to any other window in a house.
As far as scale and depth, is that what you, or height, is that what you're saying?
Scale, size, shape, etc. I just don't see it. Sorry.
Right, well, so these windows are somewhat larger than the existing to meet the new egress code. They're very much akin to the, in fact, they are double hungs. You know, we don't have room for the transoms in some of the other items, but what we're looking to do is get some nice even light throughout this room. And I think if you look at this elevation and the one above, we've been able to accomplish that. This is a glazing pattern throughout the house where you have single windows, bank doubles, a bank quadruple, or a space triple. There's not necessarily a right or wrong to the spacing between these windows, but one thing, by maybe breaking them apart, you start to evenly light this room, and that was the goal.
Did we go to the top section?
This is the back of the house.
Well, this is the sign that the garage is on there.
I'm still on this call, Susan.
Porch. This is the garage. This is the back. So it's not really obvious. Yeah.
Those gutters line up, you've got the 3 windows and then a window to the left to go this that white line.
That's not a gutter, it's just a. I think we got it pretty close. We're dealing with the different size windows.
Yeah.
I think a little bit different. Yeah. Angle of the roof is going to be a little bit different. Nick, do you have any comments?
No, I think it's in keeping with the rest of the house, and no real comments.
It's similar to the windows underneath them.
Right, yeah. Robert?
It's for me, it looks like a pimple on the house. I just, in other words, you want to light the room, put in a skylight. These are side windows, and as side windows with egress and all the other issues, it doesn't match for me. Am I upset by it? No, not particularly. I understand what they're doing, but
Right.
structurally, it makes no sense. I mean, what it is we want this room, so we don't care what the house looks like, but that's what it's doing.
Perhaps if we had if they had asked for a skylight, then you'd be dealing with a glowing light out of the roof.
Yeah, I understand. I do understand.
But there does seem to be a fairly diverse amount of window styles in use.
There's already a diverse amount of window styles.
Yeah. So, and this is not necessarily what you would say is facing the front or back of the house either. It's on the side view.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly doesn't add a lot of fenestration. The percentages are fine. I wouldn't object to it. I just had to raise the point in terms of, if you look at the image that's on there now, it doesn't fit the house. You have the piece on the right-hand side with 2 or 3 windows. boy, this has a lot of different roof lines.
Right, yep.
It's all over the place.
Well, we aren't asking to fix any of those.
No, we are not. So just raise the point. That's our job.
Very good. Any other comments? Would we like to go ahead and make a motion for approval?
Second,
Very good. All those in favor?
aye.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's see.
Committee of two?
Committee of two, any volunteers? Well, things might come in the next month that we don't know about. Are you gonna be around?
You're not gonna be at Key West?
I wish,
Oh, okay.
I wish. What is next month?
February?
February. I better look at that.
You wanna sign up for it? Because we have to vote on it. Is that all right? Okay. Emily will take this month. All right, very
I'll
good.
help if you need help, if I'm here.
Thank you, Emily. Let's see, all right, so, shall we adjourn and then maybe? Is there a motion for adjournment? Okay, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Very good, we are off. Is the recording done?